American family life in the 1990s. The 1990s were a time of significant change in the structure of the American family. The traditional model of father, mother, and children still existed, but new family forms were increasingly common. Single-parent households became more prevalent as many parents divorced and remarried, making it quite normal for children to live with a step-parent. The concept of the stay-at-home mom gradually became outdated. Instead, both spouses often had to work to maintain their standard of living and meet rising expenses. At the start of the decade, the average annual income in America was around $29,000, and by the end of the 1990s, it had risen to over $40,000. However, income levels varied widely depending on the profession. Living costs also changed over time. The price of a new car rose from about $16,000 in 1990 to over $21,000 by 1999. Meanwhile, some items became cheaper. Gasoline dropped from $1.34 per gallon to $1.22. Everyday consumer goods like postage stamps, 30 cents, bread, $1.50, and milk, $2.29, were staples in the daily family budget. The growing presence of technology began to affect family life as well. Personal computers gradually found their way into many households, thanks to user-friendly operating systems like Windows 3.1 and Windows 95. Meanwhile, mobile phones, as they were called at the time, were only used by about 28% of Americans by the end of the decade. In short, the 1990s marked a turning point in American family life, more modern, more diverse, and increasingly shaped by economic and technological forces. American entertainment and pop culture in the 1990s. During the 1990s, Americans enjoyed a wide range of entertainment options that reflected the rapid growth of technology and pop culture. Television remained the most popular medium. Family sitcoms like Full House, Home Improvement, Roseanne, and The Simpsons drew millions of viewers. At the same time, programming began to target specific audiences. Adults watched Seinfeld or ER, while teens favored Friends, Beverly Hills 90210, or Beavis and Butthead. Cinema flourished during this decade. Disney entered a Renaissance era with animated classics like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King. In 1995, Pixar made history with Toy Story, the first fully computer-animated feature film, which launched a new era in filmmaking. Other memorable movies included Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Pulp Fiction, and The Silence of the Lambs. Music left a deep cultural mark with its genre diversity. Mariah Carey stood out with 14 #1 hits. Garth Brooks brought country music into the mainstream with nationwide popularity. Meanwhile, grunge and alternative rock captured youth culture, led by bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Red Hot Chili Peppers. In fashion, music's influence was undeniable. The grunge style, flannel shirts, long hair, and a laid-back look became a trend. Simultaneously, hip-hop fashion rose in popularity, especially among urban youth. By the decade's end, style shifted toward a more polished, stylish image. Entertainment in the 1990s was both nostalgic and pioneering, a time when technology and pop culture came together to shape a generation. American sports in the 1990s. Unforgettable moments. The 1990s were an exciting and emotional time for sports fans in the U.S. While baseball, the nation's oldest sport, struggled with a 1994 players' strike that canceled the season, fans would never forget 1998, when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa thrilled the nation with a record-breaking home run race, hitting 70 and 66 home runs respectively. Those moments helped Major League Baseball regain its place in American hearts. Basketball entered a golden era with Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. The team won 6 NBA championships during the decade, and Jordan was named league MVP 4 times. In 1992, NBA stars played in the Olympics for the first time, forming the legendary Dream Team that dominated the Barcelona Games and easily won the gold medal. In football, NFL, the Dallas Cowboys stood out with 3 Super Bowl victories in 1992, 1993, and 1996, led by Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Bills made history by reaching the Super Bowl 4 years in a row, but failing to win any of them. Names like John Elway, Brett Favre, and Barry Sanders became icons for their skills and distinctive styles. Although each sport experienced its ups and downs, the 1990s are remembered as a decade of legends and unforgettable moments that let fans relive their passion through every game and season. It was a time when sports were not just games, they were an essential part of American culture,
Using fashion in the 90s.
when style took center stage. Music in 1990s America reflected the diversity and constant evolution of pop culture. Mariah Carey became one of the era's biggest icons, with 14 number 1 hits and nearly 100 million albums sold worldwide. On a different track, Garth Brooks brought country music closer to the mainstream, topping charts and building a massive, loyal fan base. However, the defining sound of the decade was alternative rock, a rebellious genre that broke away from the conventions of pop, rap, and country. Nirvana, led by Kurt Cobain, didn't just spark a musical movement, they shaped an entire lifestyle for young people. Even after Cobain's sudden death in 1994, grunge music continued to leave a profound mark on popular culture. Bands like Pearl Jam, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Stone Temple Pilots also played key roles in this wave. Alongside music, 1990s fashion expressed the powerful influence of pop culture. The grunge look, flannel shirts, ripped jeans, and unkempt hair became widely popular thanks to alternative artists. At the same time, hip-hop fashion with baggy pants, oversized shirts, and bold accessories dominated American city streets. Toward the end of the decade, fashion trends leaned toward a more polished and sophisticated appearance, especially among youth in urban areas. Like every era, fashion in the 1990s reflected not only trends, but also how Americans expressed individuality, identity, and the spirit of a rapidly changing time. The 1990s, a decade of life in all its colors. Looking back at the 1990s, it was a decade of transition and diversity in American life. While there were clear trends in music, fashion, technology, and entertainment, not everyone experienced the decade the same way. Every family, every individual had their own story. Some lived in bustling cities where technology and trends evolved daily, while others resided in rural areas or small towns where changes arrived more gradually. Some households maintained a traditional structure, while others adapted to new realities. Single parents, step-families, or dual-income households juggling responsibilities. This diversity was also reflected in consumer choices, from picking a car that fit the family budget to buying the household's first computer, or simply enjoying a Disney movie with the kids. Some were captivated by NBA basketball and Michael Jordan, while others eagerly tuned in to Friends or Seinfeld after dinner. Wherever they were or however they lived, Americans in the 1990s witnessed a time of tremendous change. With technology reaching every corner of life, pop culture booming, and the world feeling smaller as the internet became widespread. This decade wasn't just about statistics or trends, it was made of living memories. The sound of music echoing from the living room, the smell of morning toast, or the first time logging on to the World Wide Web. For each person, the 90s were a journey like no other,